Welcome back to episode number 31. Sit down and pay attention. Today, we're bringing you back to the roots. Those roots are subcontracting. We got a subcontractor technology in here coming out of YC, and you don't even know what that means. That's Y Combinator. These are the people changing the game, so sit down, pay attention, and yet you need to like and subscribe. And by the way, say what's up to the big man in the street. We've been seeing you out there. People have been coming up to me, but it's a reason for it, and that's because we're bringing you the heat on these companies. That's why we're here, bro. This is real tech talk. Boom shakalaka. So who the hell are you, bro? You know, what are you into? What do you do? Yo, you can keep it real here. Tell me about these real estate traders.
Eric Brody is the managing principal of CEMVC LLC. All opinions expressed by Eric and podcast guests are solely their own opinions and do not reflect the opinion of CEMVC LLC. This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be relied upon as a basis for investment decisions. Clients of CEMVC LLC may maintain positions in the securities discussed in this podcast.
All right, everybody, here we go again. I got my girl Anna Berger, and today we are bringing something brand new and fresh. We have been talking about on this podcast people trying to attack multifamily, trying to attack sensors in the field, different types of construction technology. But today we have someone going after the subcontractor market. Thank God you are. Thank you for being here, and we really appreciate you having you on the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Now, I also think what's fascinating, and we'll just briefly just shoot the shit about it, is you are a native. You are from Strong Island.
I am, yes.
And even more fascinating, I find, is this was not what you were originally in. What was your original way that you got into construction and got into technology?
I am the daughter of an architect, and I think we share that, right?
I'm the son. Well, technically, I'm a son of an architect. You're the daughter of the architect. Yes.
Yes.
Not that I'm judging,
no,
but
it's an important disclaimer. Thank you. So daughter of an architect. I have been on job sites since I can walk, and so I've always loved this world. I've got subcontractors and GCs all over the city that are my quote-unquote uncles. So it's a space I love and I'm excited to tackle, but this is a far cry from what I've been doing the last few years. So.
Yeah, so let's talk just briefly because I think it's really cool. A couple things is, what was the background? What got you into construction? And then where you stand now? And then we will simply get into your company, which is called Trayd. Right?
That's right.
So what was the background? Like, how did you get to this space? I get it. You were influenced by Pop Dukes. He's the architect, but that's not where you went.
No, not at all. So it really started at lunch with my dad and one of his subcontractors who I've known forever. We were all sitting around.
Which trade?
He's an electrician.
Electrician, okay.
Yeah, and so we were all sitting around this lunch table, and he was telling us how he had recently lost $100,000 on a project, and he was hemorrhaging, and he was really stressed out. And it all started when his top electrical foreman, who had been working with him for 15 years, had experienced this family emergency. And he runs to him on a Wednesday, and he's like, dude, I've worked with you for 15 years. My mom's in the hospital. It's not looking good, and I need money. Can you get me the money that I've already earned this week? And Chris looks at the guy and says, you know I love you. We use paychecks. I'll see you next week. Like there's quite literally nothing I can do to get you that money sooner. And he pulls out a few $100s out of his own pocket, out of the goodness of his heart, gives it to Sam. And it's not enough.
So that's fascinating. It's like the love of the relationship.
Totally.
The guy's helping him personally, but nothing business-wise that can go down.
No.
So there's this liquidity issue in subcontracting.
Absolutely. And also just a digital issue, right? Payroll is archaic. 17% of subcontractors are using digital platforms. 83% are still relying on manual processes and their accountants to run payroll for them, right? It's outdated.
So you're saying the 17% on platforms, you mean more like cloud-based collaboration platforms, right? Which we've heard about, and they've been around, and they're very successful.
Totally. The big
But
players.
then the payroll processing part of it, you're saying, is still a what, like an ADP, or is it just like a QuickBooks type of thing?
Exactly. It's ADP, it's QuickBooks. It's happening, every 7 days they're processing that payment. And these guys are lucky if the money cashes in their account 3 or 4 days after that, right? And so in a world where everything is instant and money is moving at the speed of light, why are construction workers getting their money 7 to 10 days after the fact?
So that was the inspiration for the company known as?
Trayd.
Bam! Trayd, people. Are you paying attention? All right. So now you're thinking about, okay, that's a tipping point. Now what, though? What does that mean? All right. You're like, all right, so you identified a problem in liquidity within subcontracting.
Yeah.
But where do you go from there, and why are you the one to tackle it?
First, I wanted to see how big this problem was, right?
Okay.
I spent about 9 months interviewing hundreds of subcontractors and general contractors and workers.
In Long Island?
In New York City.
Oh, now we're in the city.
Yeah,
You've now cheated on Long Island. All right, I'm just making sure.
So this Inception of Trayd happened at the end of 2021, and I've been pretty laser focused on it since. And so
Wait, full stop. How come, this is a very important question.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can't spell it right. Why is it? I want you to tell the people how you're spelling trade.
Sure. So it's spelled Trayd.
Why?
Why?
Why can't we spell? And you're going to tell me, I know you probably went to some amazing school.
Yeah.
And tell me, why do we do that?
Yeah, I did go to, it was a pretty decent school, yeah.
Which one?
University of Michigan.
I don't know. I went to Wisconsin, but whatever. Debating another time.
A Big Ten rivalry.
Right here on the mic right now.
I love that for us. So, yeah, I just trademarks, we wanted to jump through some hoops. I wanted it to be a universal term for these guys, right? I wanted to be something that every single person could relate to. Think about blueprints, right? Blueprints are the universal language of construction. It doesn't
100%.
matter if you're a plumber, a carpenter, an electrician. You're all looking at the same piece of paper, right? I want trade to feel like that. I want it to feel like no matter what trade you are, this is your home, right? This is your ground zero. And, that was
just messing with you, by the way.
Yeah,
Everyone does it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just the funniest thing in construction tech.
Totally.
Like, we cannot spell
No.
appropriately. I think it's apropos
Most
to our
apps,
business,
yeah.
We do the work.
Totally. Most apps these days, it's like drop 2 letters, smush the word together.
Yep, exactly. All right, so go back. So you have this moment.
Yeah.
Then you're fascinated.
Yeah.
Right? So now you're fascinated that we have this issue. There is a liquidity issue, and that it's every 2 weeks for payroll or maybe once a week for labor. But what do you do in that interstitial space? And you wanted to see if it was a bigger problem. So you start interviewing. So what do you find out?
Yeah. So I start interviewing and I start really going deep on the concept of earned wage access, right? You're seeing earned wage access blow up in industries like retail, manufacturing, quick service restaurants.
What does that mean? What does that mean? What is earned wage access?
Yeah, it means you have instant access to the wages you've earned that day. So you clock in, you clock out, that money is available to you to withdraw into your personal bank account. And so I'm sitting at this table, right? Going back to this initial lunch, and I'm like, McDonald's offers earned wage access. Like,
when did that start? When did that concept
in the last
start?
4 years or so.
Wow.
I think as banks started to get more comfortable with these short-term loans and quick lending, that's really when you start seeing that behavior pop up.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you're seeing in other industries, and welcome to the most laggard industry in the universe, construction.
It's no surprise, 50, 60 years behind. It's known as a cabinet industry. When I talk to VCs, some of their thesis statements are like, we go after cabinet businesses. And I'm like, okay, perfect. We're in for it.
So what's a cabinet business?
A legacy business that's still relying on manual processes, pen and paper. I have walked
Which is now Excel.
Totally.
Pen and paper, we could say, is Excel, right?
You would be surprised. I have walked onto job sites in Manhattan with a hard hat on, safety first.
Of course.
Very important. And I will watch, just observe, right? I will watch how guys on these hundreds of millions of dollar development projects are clocking in. They are signing in on pen and paper. They are putting their fingers on an iPad. They are taking a selfie to prove that they are at the right location that day. And I am sitting there being like, what is going on? The technology exists.
Yep.
We're here already.
So let's go
here.
back, though.
Yeah.
Earned wage access. So we get this concept. It's because, okay, so other industries are using it like McDonald's, but it wasn't applied to this industry.
Yeah.
So
and I
then
needed
what?
to understand why.
Yeah.
There's so much red tape in construction. It comes down to money moving so slowly, right? Subcontractors are constantly just trying to make ends meet, right? They are receiving their payments net 90, net 120, right? And so by the time the money...
Wait, let's go back to that. So
Sure.
that you're saying, and I think the concept is super relevant, what you've identified, which is basically it's a requisition basis, right? You're getting paid for the work that you did in the prior 30 days,
Yep.
right? And then you're saying, well, then it's net 60 or net 90 from the day that the requisition has been approved, which is 30 days after the work has been done.
Exactly.
So you're saying then they're getting the paid in 120 days to the subcontractor.
Exactly. So
Okay.
in these big financed projects, which is the niche that I am focusing on, it's hardly a niche, it's a massive industry. So if you think about it, a subcontractor has to report and say, 25% of this project is now complete. The labor is complete. Please release my funds from the bank.
Correct.
By the time the money moves from the bank to the owner, to the GC, to the sub, to the workers, we're looking at net 90, net 120.
Easily.
Right?
And then if there's a stop work order, it's even stopped. There's all these reasons why that process that you just said, hopefully being efficient on 120, can go much longer.
Exactly. So constantly, subcontractors, to make weekly payment, they're pulling from other projects, right, that are finished and complete and signed, sealed, and delivered. They have to make sure that there's constantly other pools of cash laying around because their current project isn't paying out in time.
Well, I think that that's just so true. We call it a WIP report, like work in progress, right?
Exactly.
That subcontractor is like playing a game of chess. He may have done the actual work, but he actually has to get the check. There's a big difference between earning it and then receiving that capital. And again, I think it's important we point out, you're talking about the owner of the subcontracting company, although you're attacking the actual employee of that company, but just laying out the problems that subcontractor has. Right.
So in this, 9 months where I am head down trying to understand this problem space, I am starting to observe these macro issues, right? Hitting every person in the funnel.
Right.
It's the GCs that their hands are tied, right? Because they're sitting in between two parties, one that doesn't want to give up their money because the work isn't where they want it to be.
Correct.
And the subs that are like, I need to pay my guys. And these GCs are like, I don't know what to do. I'm just trying to project manage as best as I can.
It's a disparate industry, right?
100%.
One is moving at a monthly or 60 or 90-day pace, but the law is saying to that worker, they must be paid, some of them weekly or biweekly. Right?
Exactly. So then you have the subcontractors who have the GCs stepping on their throats, being like, deliver, deliver, deliver. And you have on the other side, the workers being like, I need to pay my phone bill, right? I need to make ends meet.
How am I showing up to the job if you're not going to pay me?
Correct. And the last final hurdle, which shocked me the most of all, was the number of skilled laborers, guys that have worked their entire career in the trades, right? They're not making an hourly day wage. They're making $50, $60, $70 an hour, right? These are union workers. They are leaving their jobs to go work for less lucrative gig economy work like Uber and Postmates because those types of platforms are starting to offer instant pay.
Wow.
And
so the access to capital being that expedited and quick is enough of a motivator to stop something that is much more lucrative because of the timing of the payment.
Exactly.
Wow.
And once I cracked that and I saw all of those pieces sitting in front of me, I literally sat back and I was like, I have something here.
So what is it?
Trayd. Thank you for that segue.
Thank you.
Trayd.
That's my job.
We're innovating here, right? We're taking an age-old concept, which is construction payroll. We are innovating, and we are designing it so that we can run payroll and offer same-day pay.
So all right, I think it's an incredible problem. It's obvious, right? I always like obvious problems to solve using technology, right? Yeah. So tell me two things I'm really curious about. So what's the financing? How are you now doing it? Because you're talking about, I'm assuming, debt. Because if the guy just had money laying around, he'd use it and then replenish it and use it. So there's a third party in there, right? And then where do you stand today?
So to start, we have quite a few design partners that we are in the process of launching this product into market. We very carefully selected partners that have enough liquidity on hand to support the initial days of earned wage access. So there is no type of...
So you're the bank.
We are not, no one's the bank. The subcontractor is supplying the payments for earned wage access.
Okay.
You have to think of it as they're going to make this payment on Friday.
Yep.
Can they afford someone pulling out $300 or $400 on a Tuesday?
Right.
Our initial launch partners can afford that.
Okay.
And that was a very strategic decision. We want to hone in first on our wedge, right? Which is, will earned wage access change this industry, right?
Yeah.
And then once we have that answer, which I'm pretty sure it will, but again, I'm the founder. I have to be delusionally sure of my idea. Then we go into the bigger kind of nut to crack, which is tackling how money moves in this industry and how to stop the hemorrhaging that's happening downstream. So once we get into that, that's when, in terms of factoring and financing these projects.
Right, and then I'm assuming, yes, then you'll solve for less and less expensive capital because it's already been proven and down, right?
Correct.
And drive down that cost,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly.
So that's fascinating. And it sounds to me that where do you stand? Because, my role here at Real Tech Talk is to find those technologies that you don't know, audience, that are changing the game. So where do you stand as a company?
Yeah. We're in a really, really exciting juncture. We joined Y Combinator's summer program starting a few months ago.
Give the audience, because they may not know, because many of them are coming from construction and development in that side. What's Y Combinator? I know that's a superstar of your industry. What's Y Combinator?
Yeah.
Why is it so prestigious when you say that, and why it's relevant?
Yeah, Y Combinator at its core is a startup accelerator program. It has produced companies like Stripe, Airbnb, Instacart, Gusto, DoorDash, the names that are household names. And essentially they are a venture fund, right? But they are also our day-to-day mentors. So
How'd you get in? Who did you beat up to get in there? You're in construction. We's definitely not,
I'm anti-violence. You should know that. No one was harmed in our application process.
Okay, fine. I mean, we're Neanderthals here, so we always think we're coming in hard and fast.
Yeah, no need. You could just have a conversation.
Is that right?
It's true.
Okay, interesting.
Crazy. There's a written application, and then
and how many people total?
I know for sure. It was quite a competitive pool. I think there were over 20,000 applications.
And how many were selected?
Less than 1%.
God damn.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So that's step one, right?
That was step one. So we submitted a written application. We demoed the product. We told them where we were at. We were in a crucial moment. We needed capital to finish our product build, and we couldn't get into market without capital.
Correct.
Right? And it was a brutal position as a founder, right? I was sitting 2 feet back from the finish line being the starting line, right?
Of course.
And couldn't start the race without that final push of capital. So we so luckily got a call back, and I had just pitched to 100 VCs, and I had my pitch down, right? I had my spiel, I had my numbers, I had everything I needed. And so when they asked me 36 questions in 12 minutes, I had my answers ready.
And where are they based out of?
They're in San Francisco.
So you flew out there to do it?
Yes. I've actually been back and forth for the last few months, and will continue to be until the end of September. So
they gave you the capital you needed.
Yes.
You're in the summer program in this moment.
Right now.
And what happens when you leave that program?
Yeah. They come with us, right? They have basically started our next round. So they opened up a safe to lead our next, or not lead, but to support our next round. And so I have an assigned mentor who I'm in constant communication with, and that continues beyond the program. So
That's
they
crazy.
are true, like pre-seed, seed investors, and I think the world is missing that. I think it's such like crucial growth moment to be on the ground floor of a company when they're so vulnerable, and like a gust of wind can blow them into failure, right?
Even though, as we've identified, you identified someone other people haven't, that is an obvious problem in the construction industry today.
Yeah.
And you needed those sources of capital.
Exactly.
So why you though? Where did you come from, and how did you get into this space? All right, so we got the Pop Dukes,
Sure.
He's in the business, so that's an influence, but that's not the business you were in.
No, not
What
at
were
all.
you involved in?
This is my second company. I spent 3 years building a video dating app, and I really focused in that role on product and marketing and growth. I grew Curtain, also spelled with missing letters.
Obviously.
Obviously.
How could it be anything else?
Surprise, surprise.
Surprise.
An app for Gen Z that's missing letters. Shocking. And it was an amazing product, right? My co-founder and I, we saw this white space where TikTok was blowing up, but all forms of dating were photo-based. And we were like, what's going on here, right? Like, I hated personally showing up to dates in my mid-20s in New York City. and hearing a guy's voice and immediately it like nails on a chalkboard. And you're like, if I knew what you sounded like at 6 p.m. today, this date would have been canceled.
Wow, that's tough.
I know.
You're tough, dude.
Listen, I'm not violent, but I am tough.
Yeah, of course, of course.
So, we had this hypothesis, like what if we brought TikTok into dating and we built a video dating app? It was, the functionality of TikTok. Imagine a TikTok feed where people's profiles were pre-recorded videos.
I guess my question is more like, but were you a programmer? Or are you like, I'm straight entrepreneur? Like what, like so you'll write the business plan.
Yeah.
You'd find the engineers to do it, but you're like, this is the idea. You are the founder, so to speak.
Yeah. Maybe I would even say I'm the dreamer, right? Like I like to see what's not there. I like to listen to people complain because a lot of times when you just listen a little better, ideas are sitting right in front of you.
Agreed.
And I think I've spent the last few years just listening really closely, waiting for an idea that I felt passionately about. I feel like when I had this kind of hit me like a ton of bricks, something in my like childhood experience of always being around workers and seeing that they were like, sharing lunches and like I'd go to these job sites, right?
Yeah.
Like I would see them. I have these like quote unquote uncles who have struggled their whole professional lives, even though they get up every single day at 4:30 in the morning and they're on the job site by 6 and like it's just not getting easier for them, right? And I just felt really compelled to solve this problem. I think I'm at a really unique vantage point, right? Because I have a tech background. I'm not a coder, but I do have a tech background. I've worked in this space. I know business. I know product. I know marketing. I know how to build an app for virality. And I have like a unique vantage point to construction, right? Like I know enough without being so like swallowed by it.
You know enough to be dangerous.
Yeah. Don't tell anybody that.
Again, nonviolence. Sitting with the self-proclaimed silverback gorilla of construction and tech.
Exactly.
All right, so we got this brand new. There's two things. First, I want to just hear. So, where does the company stand? And right now, obviously, it's there and it's now funded. When do you launch into the space?
Yeah, so we are in the process of launching right now. The product is completely ready. I'm in New York City, away from the program in San Francisco, so I can be on the ground with our customers. So we're in the process of integrating with our first customer, and we're off to the races. We have
Can I tell you?
Yeah.
Which is just awesome, and just putting a what is it, feather in your cap?
Sure.
My cap, but not yours, mine.
Yeah.
Is the whole premise of this was like, Tim Ferriss podcast. How do you create an ecosystem where you have access to like the founders, like the people like doing it?
Yeah.
And it's like this moment you are coming out, companies formed, about to hit the market, and everyone else out there doesn't have that access, and here you are, right? Like I'm like, we doing it, we're doing this thing. So that's really cool. So when do you think, like, when's the launch? And I have to be at the event. So tell us.
I haven't actually decided when we'll celebrate. I think we got into YC, we jumped over the celebration, we got right to work, we're about to launch, we have no celebration planned. I think it's important to take a beat. I think once we run our first full month of payroll successfully, I'll pick my head up and go for a drink, and you're more than welcome to join.
100%.
Yeah, it's real, it's happening.
So when should we be looking out for that?
Any day now.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So then in addition then, just so that like we pump it out there, where do they find you or how do they find out about it?
So it's really a closed beta right now,
Okay.
right? So it's invite only, working with subcontractors that I've built a relationship over with the last year, right? And so, my partnerships right now are strategic.
Yeah.
These aren't people that I know from my personal network. These are people that my first subcontractor, this was the guy I walked onto a job site last summer with a hard hat on. And I was like, is there anyone I could talk to? And he was like, what is this girl doing? And I was like, do you have a minute? He's my first customer.
It's awesome.
Sometimes you just have to do things that don't scale.
Obviously, and being fearless, that was huge.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like just not taking no holds barred and just getting busy with it.
I saw him 2 nights ago and he was like, I think it's our 1-year anniversary. And I was like, cheers to that.
So tell me just quickly, and I think it's important, what's the economic model as a business? We understand, and I agree with you. Here's the problem. It doesn't make sense. Give me 2 things. One, that business model in other industries, how do they make money? And just so what is the actual model for you?
Yeah. It's a SaaS platform fundamentally. So subcontractors are paying to run payroll, right? QuickBooks, ADP, they charge a monthly rate or a per user per month cost to process payroll for their employees. We're following suit, right? That's pretty standard. And that shouldn't surprise anybody. Payroll is expensive. We have to worry about taxes and deductions, especially as we, tackle the union deductions and all of that stuff. That's top of mind for us. And so, payroll is not a place we're cutting corners.
Right.
We're actually doubling down and trying to innovate there as well. So
how have the companies that back McDonald's and the rest of it doing what you're doing, how are they doing?
Well,
yeah.
There's companies like, should I name drop other?
You can. I mean, it doesn't mean it makes it, but
PayActive is an earned wage access provider. Chime has also, it's a pretty big neobank. They've been toying with get early access to your pay 3 days early if you show bank stubs of your last paycheck, and we can assume you're still working there.
Yep.
There's a little bit of risk associated with that, but they've figured out a model that works, and it's, Chime is so successful. And so there's a bunch. And
so are you underwriting that, by the way? I think that's fascinating. You have to underwrite that the job will continue to be funded, right? And now you're looking the trickle down effect so that you're confident and comfortable with the weekly pay.
Yeah, we basically do. And that's why I think building our long-term relationship with these subcontractors is important. I think a year-long customer pipeline might be, to close the deal, might scare some people off, but from where I'm sitting, this is a very vulnerable period, and I want to make sure my subs have the collateral on hand to deal with this. So,
of course,
I've gotten to watch them over the last year manage their business, build their business. I saw one sub go from 145 guys to 210 in under a year because he's starting to take on more work. That's a really strong indicator for me. And so we have these business health scores that we operate with internally. And so, yeah.
And then is it So you're adding a benefit. That subcontractor now can say, even when marketing for getting guys, girls, however, right, into their company, they can say, by the way, we give you access to this, right? That helps, right?
When I talk to these guys, these subcontractors, I should say there are some women too. So
no worries.
Coming from me, that should be front and center.
We're using guys in the vernacular for all people.
Perfect. Love that. When I talk to them, the pitch to them is threefold, right? It's, save time and energy in your back office. You're spending 10s, 20s hours a week.
Yep.
Taking payroll and processing it, right? Then there's the added reconciliation of time and attendance data. It's happening on spreadsheets, in email, body copy, right? They're John worked 6 hours, Frank worked 12 hours. And you're what am I doing with this information? Put it somewhere.
Right.
And so you've got 5, 6, 7 people in the back office working on time and pay. So it's just a time savings tool, first and foremost. And secondly, it's you're hemorrhaging your workers. We haven't talked about it really, but that was,
let's hear what's happening.
I mean, as I said at the top of the meeting, the gig economy is taking over.
Right.
It's more enticing to these guys because they have the flexibility to work when they want to work and get paid instantly. And subcontractors know that in order to retain their workers, they have to get competitive and they have to incentivize. And so they love this hook of my guys are going to love this. They'll either...
Well, it creates a gig economy or their perception of a gig economy to maybe a more, structured, business, right? So that it feels gig, but actually it's a lot more long-term with this tool.
Absolutely. We are basically unlocking daily pay wages to the W-2'd workers.
What do you think then, just in thinking that, what's the future then? Do you think it drives more workers back to construction because we have such a dearth right now?
No doubt in my mind. There was research published by Walmart from PayActive where they had a global study, and it basically said 9 out of 10 people would leave their job to pursue a job that offered earned wage access. Once they had previously experienced earned wage access, they would do anything to get it back.
That's a huge fact, right?
Huge.
Which is obviously why what YC and others are now seeing,
Totally.
right? So what round are you at, or are you raising, or what's the story?
Yeah, so we had a closed out pre-seed from Y Combinator. and we have our initial funds set up for our seed round. I'm looking to raise sometime later this year. Not actively fundraising. We are, as I said, head down.
Yeah, right now you're in it. You got to scale.
Yeah.
Boom. But you're
Get
saying
this
soon
product
will
in
be the
market.
next round.
Yeah, exactly. I'm hoping this fall we can kick off our seed.
Oh, wow. So we got to pay attention,
Yeah.
right? We got to watch because if it is going to light up, the whole point of this is that you get access so that we can, get involved, obviously.
Yeah.
Well, listen, I really appreciate you coming on. We were going to have like an amazing episode. I think we got
so
some
glad.
great stuff.
Cool.
And I'm super excited. Honestly, I learned so much more about what you're doing by having you in here communicating about it. And, look, I'm super interested, so I want to stay in touch.
Amazing. Thank you so much,
You
Eric.
got it.
It was so fun.
You're welcome. You guys heard it here first. Obvious, massive problem, right? If the gig economy, and we spoke about it before, that we're losing labor in construction, what's a way in which they would actually stay? How about access to capital faster? And that's the reason that she is now growing so fast and is about to launch into the greater marketplace is she has identified a problem and a solution within that space. These are the companies that you need to pay attention to. There are also a little bit of fintech in there. I think this one could be massive. I'm paying close attention to this one. And I'd like to put a feather in my damn hat. We're identifying these companies because of the ecosystem we're creating with Real Tech Talk. And if I could drop this mic, I would. Peace.